Welcome to Chandwell. My name's Michael and I've completed the framework of the first building of Station Road on my N-gauge model railway set in Yorkshire in 1993. This structure is now ready to receive the outer walls of the building. It may look simple, but I made quite a few mistakes getting this far. So join me then as we look at Shaky Start, Building Station Road, Part 6. Because of the complex way that the three parts of the building overlap, I decided to make this building as one, rather than as separate parts to be joined together later. This building is far more complex than the blue shed and the water building, but if you saw those videos, then my approach to this one is going to be exactly the same. I start with the plan view of the building, and then remove all the detail, the back extensions, chimneys, dormers and bay windows. The remaining shapes are all merged together to make the plan view of the building's outline. My first concern is how to construct the shell of the building, as it has many outer faces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Some of them are small. This one here is only 2.73mm. I'm not going to be faffing around with a strip of card less than 3mm wide. But for now, let's just focus on the faces with the windows and doors. I make the walls with openings from 2 layers of 0.5mm card. This keeps them strong whilst allowing me to have 0.5mm recesses for the windows. My own trial and error over the years has taught me that my 0.5mm card, once it has sticky label on it, is 0.7mm thick. So I draw 2 layers of 0.7mm card on the inside of the floor plan. Keeping them on the inside means that the building won't get any larger than originally drawn. The blind walls were made from 1mm card, which I find is really 1.2mm thick, so I draw those walls on too. I make the walls the full length of the building so that they will give it strength, as well as being much easier to handle and get straight than if I was working with really narrow bits of card. Because there's a hipped roof on the side of the rightmost building, I will add a support here to help me shape it. With all of this drawn in the exact sizes, I can work out the dimensions of the inner supports that I will need so that it will all glue together just right. I decided to make a simple framework comprising the 2 side walls and the centre wall. These would be 3 pieces of 1mm card glued between the 2 floor panels, shown here. Since it's the start of Station Road, I decided to fill up my 2 glue bottles. I use PVA glue for almost everything. My main glue is this Noble Craft Super Strength Crafters glue, which I bought on eBay 2 years ago for £7.69. I also use this Just Stationary multi-purpose PVA glue. This is another eBay purchase, £6.99, almost 3 years ago. This glue is runnier than the other one, causes the ink to run on my prints, but is perfect for sticking larger pieces of card together, as it is a lovely smooth consistency. It's important to keep the bottle parts clean, as any glue in here will go plasticky and cause the bottle to become stuck together and not sealed properly. A run under the tap is enough. I arranged the parts of the building onto an A4 sheet and printed it onto an A4 sticky label. The floor level is marked on the drawing to help me arrange everything. I needed the ground to be marked on both sides of the central piece, so I included a piece to be stuck on after cutting it. I noticed I'd included this in the centre of 2 pieces that will be cut from 1mm card. This would stop me from being able to stick the whole thing to card and then cut it out. Whenever I notice a problem like this after printing, I don't throw the label away. They're worth almost 9p, you know. I just correct the drawing and then make it a different colour. Magenta will do. The result is a bit alarming, but as long as I cut around the pink lines rather than the grey ones, I'll be fine. I roughly cut the paper only piece and put it to one side. I'm using 1mm grey board for the support structure. I bought this in bulk 3 years ago and it works out at about 13p a sheet. I roughly cut away the empty pieces of label and then stick it to the card. I use the large craft knife to cut around the lines. General wisdom is to keep using fresh blades, but for the large pieces like this I tend to just keep using the same old blade. I've not snapped off a blade since making the water building a few months ago, and to be fair, it's probably a bit too blunt. I take it slowly, using many light passes of the knife. The parts then come out as a little kit. I cut out the paper only label, peel it, and then stick it to the other side of the central card component. This gives me a single card support with guidelines on either side. So here is the floor piece, which abuts the wall piece along the magenta line. These magnetic mates clamps from York Model Making are really helpful. They're right-angled clamps with powerful magnets that are perfect for aligning things whilst the glue sets. I simply run a bead of glue along the line and pop the floor into place. The clamps hold it in place just right. I use a bit of card and the mat to ensure it's flush with the edges. So here we have the two halves of the building. We now need to get the middle bit in place between them. I use this scale model scenery right angle jig to hold the piece straight whilst I push the floor against it along the pink line. A couple of heavy engineer's squares apply a little pressure whilst the glue sets. The last piece just stands in place, so a little glue and then rest it in place like this. I decided to add a couple of right angled fillets to help keep everything straight. These are just offcuts from earlier. So here we are. It looks like it's a good start, but it isn't. In my rush of excitement to start building, I've made a few mistakes. Compared to the cereal packet mock-up, it looks like it's the right size at least, but I missed the chimney off the gable. No bother, I could easily add that on. But look at the left. I've forgotten to take into account the raised bit of baseboard and the piece of wood that's down there. I accounted for this in the mock-up. How did I miss it? No bother, I could probably butcher it with a knife. But look at this as well. What have I done here? This support runs right down the centre of the tower, right down the centre of the windows, and right down the centre of the doorway, which I was going to model as an open hallway. With this here, I just can't manage the windows or the hallway. It will have to go. Rather than butcher it even more, I had to accept the fact that it was beyond redemption. It had to go. So here's the replacement with those issues resolved. It just needs a couple of pieces to make it a little more rigid. Using the measurements from the main drawing, I cut card supports ready to drop it into the frame like this. Since the one on the right is the back wall, I've cut large holes to accommodate the windows later. I just added glue around each edge and slotted it into place. Over on the layout, it fits the space perfectly. The large slots in the centre support will allow space for the doorway and the windows to be accommodated. This whole debacle took me 9 hours, and I used 2 sticky labels and 2 sheets of 1mm card. This takes the overall cost of Station Road to £1.22, and it's taken me 34.5 hours so far. I can't wait to get started on the next part of the building. I think I'll start with the tower, as that is the most complex part. If you'd like to see behind the scenes updates of my progress, please consider joining my channel as a member. This silver button gives you details. It's almost time for my yearly top 20 too. Here's a reminder of what made the list last year. Until next week then, thank you for watching, take care, and I'll see you then.